Warning to all Los Angeles residents. Governor Gavin Newsom and other city leaders are touting LA 2.0, a reimagining of the city. Coming up, I'll tell you why that's just code word for massive condo developers that line the pockets of rich developers. I'm Carl DeMaio, chairman of Reform California and a California state representative representing District 75 in the state assembly. For years, I've warned you that California Democrats are in the pockets of rich developers. If you see the legislation, these Democrats are out there constantly trying to create government-subsidized housing projects that channel billions of dollars to developers to build completely wasteful and expensive housing units. The latest estimates are that they're building housing units with government subsidies at $1 million a pop. And of course, the liberals say that what they want is socialized housing. They create a housing crisis. They choke any sort of private development because it's so costly to build anything here with private money using the market. And then they come along saying, oh my goodness, the market failed. Let's come in and have government take it over. And that's what we've seen happening in recent years. We've also seen legislation signed into law by Governor Gavin Newsom and championed by all these liberal Democrats to eliminate single-family zoning throughout the state of California. And in fact, California law was changed in 2022 to eliminate single-family zoning going forward. And we'll discuss that law in just a moment. How does this all apply to the Los Angeles fires and the effort to rebuild? I believe that there is now a grave risk, and everything I'm seeing in these early days seems to indicate that we're being set up for their reimagining project to be a complete, massive density boost in the Los Angeles area, where single-family homes are going to be replaced by very dense developments that completely alter the character of Los Angeles and these neighborhoods. Let me walk you through what we're seeing early on. Governor Gavin Newsom was on MSNBC or NBC. I think this is an interview with Rachel Maddow. Let me see.
Over the course of the next several years, Los Angeles will be host to...
Yeah. Rachel Maddow. Anyway, in an interview with Rachel Maddow, Gavin Newsom is touting a reimagining of LA. Here is the clip where we've got, I think it starts right about here.
We already have a team looking and reimagining LA 2.0, and we're making sure everyone's included, not just the folks on the coast, people here that were ravaged by this disaster.
We're reimagining LA 2.0, not just the folks ravaged on the coast, but everywhere in between. Reimagining. Dude, you can't even handle the existing LA, all right? You burned it to the ground. You left it with a crime wave, rampant homelessness, massive cost of living increase over the past several years, crumbling infrastructure. You can't even handle LA 1.0. Don't talk to me about LA 2.0, because whenever you liberals talk about your reimagining projects, I get really worried because your utopia looks nothing like the community that many Californians desire. And so when they say we're reimagining California, what does that really mean? Well, you got this first indicator, Cal Matters, which is a center-left news organization. Ben Christopher has this story this week: why California keeps putting homes where fires burn. You know what this is all leading towards. The narrative that they're setting up is that you should not be allowed to rebuild in certain areas because it's too risky. Now, do you understand the insanity and the hypocrisy of that statement? Liberal Democrat politicians in this state have intentionally exposed homeowners to significantly higher risk because they have not allowed those homeowners to build defensible space around their homes to protect their homes from fires. More importantly, these negligent politicians preside over government agencies, whether it's a local government agency or state agencies, that are supposed to be maintaining public lands. And yet these public lands, these parcels owned by government, whether it's the canyons, the open space behind communities, residential communities that Los Angeles County and Los Angeles City were supposed to maintain and clear out brush, but they did not. Absolute rank negligence. Or these state-held land masses where the state government agencies have not properly thinned forests. The negligence of their land management practices, their fire and forest management practices, expose all of these communities to high risk. And then so when a fire comes along, they say, oh, boy, these are risky areas. You shouldn't be able to rebuild. Excuse me, but these are not necessarily by default risky areas if you manage your habitat properly, if you manage the risk, the fuel load, if you do the brush clearing, if you do your damn job, Gavin Newsom, Mayor Karen Bass, and you other gaggle of negligent politicians, you wouldn't have the level of risk in these communities. But what they're suggesting is, no, we shouldn't allow you to rebuild in those areas. Now that's code, not only code, it's a means to an end. They don't want people living in suburban areas or rural areas. They're trying to choke us of water, electricity, roads, and yes, even come in and say you're no longer eligible to build in those areas. Instead, you should move to the dense urban core. You shouldn't live in a single family home. You should live in a high rise. That's exactly what they have said. All of their housing policies have that as their priority. In my county, San Diego County, the Democrats have been running around saying, we need more housing, we need more housing. And so the Attorney General brought 2 lawsuits. And these 2 lawsuits illustrate what I'm talking about, where they don't want you to have single family homes. They certainly don't want you living in the wildland urban interface. They want you living in the dense urban centers. So when they talk about reimagining, that's what they're really talking about, forcing everyone to live in dense urban centers. The Attorney General, Rob Bonta, brought a lawsuit against the city of Encinitas, saying you rejected a housing project that was very dense and that the community did not want. It was a massive high-rise on the coast. The community, city of Encinitas residents said, don't do this. And by the way, city of Encinitas, city council, all Democrat at the time. And the voters, all Democrat, overwhelmingly Democrat on the coast. But these Democrat voters and Democrat council members said, we don't want this project. It's too dense. It totally changes what our coastline would look like. Rob Bonta sued and said, no, you have to approve that project. Now, move a little more south and east to Chula Vista. Rob Bonta saw a big housing community development project down there of single family homes. And he sued saying, stop. These homes are in the risky area, and so we can't build these homes. And stop that project. Now, in both lawsuits, Rob Bonta had a different basis for suing to try to change local approvals on housing. On the single family homes, he said, the fires could hit those homes. On the dense development project on the coast, he said, we have a housing crisis. It's a shortage. We need more housing. Well, hold on a second. The project you're stopping in Chula Vista provided exponentially more houses and housing units than the project you crammed down the throats of the residents of Encinitas. So when they talk about reimagining, the first thing they're talking about is not allowing you to rebuild a single family home and basically saying you have to go in the inner city, dense urban core. And so stories like this, you're going to see a drumbeat of this. And you're going to see in the coming weeks and months and years, fire victims told they're not allowed to rebuild because, that canyon that you used to live on, it's too risky. You're not allowed to build there anymore. And watch what happens to their housing value. It goes absolutely worthless. Now you got this liberal. He's on KTLA 5. And I want you to listen carefully because this is the narrative. Boy, this guy looks so malnourished. Someone give him a piece of cheese. Let me start here from the beginning to make sure you hear the whole darn thing. This is, and listen carefully, because this is what they're trying to do when they talk about reimagining.
Of my conversation with Mr. Giacoletti was when he talked about the possibility of, as we start rebuilding, starting to relax some of the zoning laws.
As we start to rebuild, let's relax the zoning laws. Well, they've already been substantially relaxed, and now they want to relax them even more. Zoning laws, which means you can build more on a single-family parcel.
Especially in a more working-class neighborhood like Altadena, so that rather than putting up single-family residences, especially on parcels where people might not have the wherewithal to rebuild at all, we allow developers to start putting up duplexes and apartments.
There you got it. Instead of allowing people to put up single-family residences where people don't have the ability to rebuild, more on that in a minute, we should allow developers to start putting up duplexes and apartments. Dense. Now, I want to highlight not only what their intent is to convert single-family homes into duplexes and apartment complexes, density, but the absolutely offensive and infuriating comment that the reason why we would go to someone who used to have a single family home, who intended to rebuild and wanted to rebuild, and say, no, you should sell your land to a developer and let them do an apartment building. The reason why that's going to happen is that they don't have the wherewithal to rebuild at all. In other words, they can't afford it. Now, who caused them not to be able to afford to rebuild? It's not the construction worker wanting to get a job. It's not the company that provides lumber or appliances or drywall. It's not the market. No. It's the government. That's right. The same people. And this is why I call these government officials arsonist firefighters. They create a crisis, they create a problem, and then they come along saying, oh, we'll solve it. Sell your home to a developer, pennies on the dollar. You don't get to rebuild because, it's too expensive. The government caused it to be too expensive. And as a result, we're going to get what we want, which is instead of you live in your single family home, that you get your home back, you get to rebuild. Instead, some developer gets to get your land, build something huge and dense, and make a buck off of it. Because the government made it impossible for you to rebuild. Wonder how they're going to do that? Take a look. Los Angeles Department of Public Health put out this statement. Boy, nothing greets you like, as a fire victim of, hey, boy, we got your back, than a health order saying that you're not allowed to clean up your debris without having a government inspection. Health officer issues order for safe removal, transport, and disposal of fire debris. My goodness, we have to help these people, save them from themselves. Quote, the health officer has issued an order prohibiting the cleanup and removal of fire debris at fire-damaged and burned properties located in LA until a hazardous materials inspection team is sent there and can complete an inspection by an approved government agency. Fire debris removal activities must be approved and comply with local, state, and federal laws and regulations. It sounds real easy, huh? This is what they're greeted with, just to start mopping up the mess. And don't even get me started on the state building code and all sorts of other regulations that they're about to get smacked with. Remember, I told you in a previous episode, Governor Gavin Newsom is out there saying, I'm cutting red tape. None of his executive orders have cut red tape. It's a lie, and the media has failed to do some fact checking and truth testing on anything in those executive orders. Nothing, not a single word in those executive orders changes existing law or existing regulations. Not a single damn word. You want to make it easier for people to rebuild? Scrap the California Building Code, all the amendments since 2008, 2005, which made it impossible to rebuild in California, anything, or build from scratch or rebuild for that matter. And basically tell people, if you rebuild something that is substantially similar to what you had before, you get to do it at whatever standards were originally applied to that home. Now, most people are going to say, well, I want to upgrade and I want to have some improvements. Again, it's depending upon whether they want to invest in those improvements. But there are a number of mandates and regulations and cost drivers that have been added to the California Building Code that makes it insanely expensive to build in California. That's why a house in California costs 3 times what the same house would cost when you take out land to build in Texas. It's all the regulations and mandates. Now, remember I told you that the Democrats are already trying to get rid of single-family homes in the state of California. And that's where this press release from September 16th of 2021 comes in. In 2022, two new laws, SB 9 and 10, kicked in. SB 9 says that if you own a parcel that's a single-family home, you are now able to have up to 4 units on a single-family property. Up to 4 units. So one single-family parcel is, all single-family parcels are now eliminated, and you can have up to 4 units on a one single-family parcel. That's under SB 9. But if you are within a certain distance of a transit stop, in other words, a bus stop, SB 10 allows for up to, are you ready for it? 10 units per parcel. So this is where these massive condo towers are going to come in. The developer can come in and do basically 40 units on what used to be 4 parcels and build up. They would add parking on one side and they would build directly up. They might add retail underneath as well. But this is the sort of paradigm shift that's happening in California that's going to make our communities unrecognizable. And so when these fires happen, you need to be very worried when Gavin Newsom and other Democrat politicians start talking about reimagining and 2.0 crap. What they're talking about is all of their ideas that they've been trying to force feed for years, and that they realize, well, if we change this law, it'll take time as people develop and sell and rebuild a variety of parcels over the course of 40, 50 years. No, now they see a bunch of things burn down and they are salivating. They are licking their chops. And when all the media goes away and everyone in the public starts looking into other issues and the crisis dies down, the victims, the fire victims, will continue to be victimized. All for a utopia vision, fantasy, really, perverted fantasy that the politicians of this state have. So I'm warning you right now. And Newsom has been saying, oh, no. We're not trying to, sell all this land to developers. That's not true. That's all of your policies are pro-rich developer, pro-density, pro-towers. That's what everything you all have been telling us for the last 10 years and putting into law for the last 6 or 7 years has been pro-density, anti-single-family home. Now, we hear what you're saying, Governor. You can deny it all you want. And I know damn well that you're going to make things very expensive for these fire victims, too expensive to rebuild a single-family home. As a result, we're going to have massive density. Look, at Reform California, we're exposing this, we're warning people about it, and we're fighting it with every fiber of our being, but we need your help. Go to our website, reformcalifornia.org. That's reformcalifornia.org. We desperately need your help. On that site, we do have a campaign that's all about local control of housing, because we don't want Sacramento politicians coming through and cramming density down our throats. We actually are opposed to SB 9 and 10, and we believe they should be repealed. We believe that we should restore single-family zoning in California. We also have a number of proposals to reduce fire risk, to improve the management of the wildland-urban interface so we can reduce risk. Help us advance these common sense reforms. Help us fight the 2.0 nonsense of liberal politicians in our state. Go to that website, sign up. At the bottom, there's a place for first name, last name, email, phone, and zip. Gives you updates on our ongoing campaigns to replace bad politicians in the state of California, particularly breaking the Democrat supermajority in Sacramento. Also chip in a contribution, put gas in our tank. We can't wage this fight without your help. Until next time, Carl DeMaio, Chairman of Reform California and a California State Representative. Thanks for watching, and I hope you enjoyed this episode. But before you click away, please subscribe to this channel and click that notification button so you get updated when we post new episodes. Plus, like this video and share it with your friends so that we can help spread our message across the state. Reform California with Carl DeMaio is paid for by Carl DeMaio for State Assembly.